So we have a Kremlin once more. We also have a lot of Des Moines, a mix of destroyers. Interesting, they've gone with a 3 destroyer layout. You normally don't see more than 2. And as a consequence, one of those destroyers is essentially pairing itself against a Yoshino. So that could be interesting. It does imply that Nautical by nature are going to take a slightly more sit back stage for the early part of this. However, for my part, I am going to explode. The Easter Oracle cat voice just goes so well with that. All right, we're seeing some clippings to the northeast. So that suggests that we're going to see a sea shove from at least part of Nautical by nature. Are they going to distract it, or are they just going to ignore it completely? That remains the question. Because if you're going through C, you kind of have to anchor at B and then hope you can slam through the flank. The Kremlin can do that. The Yoshino could potentially do a long-range kiting action, but it's really going to need a spotter to make that work. The other option, of course, would be an AC split, but what happens there is that you risk splitting your fleet elements too far. They can't provide mutual support to each other, and you get defeated in detail if the enemy puts a strong force into either A or C, or they just go up the middle into B, and you can't close the jaws of the trap in time. So, how are MBN going to play this? Well, we're seeing the majority of their heavy elements moving off towards C. They've got Neelish Iron in the Daring leading the way. They've got all 3 of their Des Moines moving, as well as the Kremlin of Hip Hobbit providing support there. Meanwhile, Gummy and Bob in the Zhao is pushing south, with the Yoshino interestingly on point there. And we have a fast dash into B from something. That's got to be the Shimikaze. MUUH have rather tipped their hand there. They've made it obvious that their Shimikaze has gone full boost into B, was maybe hoping for a quick grab. Mad Mags, being a bit more considered, is going to get there in time to interrupt the cap, but will tip his hand that they've put a destroyer into B as well. Meanwhile, well, it's just a question of where the rest of MUUH have gone, isn't it? So let's wait for the teams to tiptoe out and see what's what. Speculative fire from the Des Moines. He's playing the timer here, interestingly. So the guess is he's going to drop these shells right onto the borderline, see if he gets lucky. He probably won't, but it might put the wind up somebody, maybe make them make a mistake, maybe even tempt them into opening fire if they got a marker back. Torpedoes away from the gearing. Salvo from 154, 154, short range. Those came off the Z52, I would say. I don't think a Daring runs quadruple launch. I think it runs quints. Okay, and we have a cap in C as well. Now, given the timings, that would imply either Daring or Z52. Actually implies Daring in point C, Z52 and Shimikaze in point B, a Stalingrad down in A. Wait a second, what's capping A? Okay, that's curious. Of course, they've got 3 destroyers. They can play this almost spread game. That's a slightly unusual meta there. So the Z52 has been picked up in point B. I wonder if the Shimikaze ran into point A. He didn't have the time to run through point A, surely. We'd have seen the cap flicker backwards and forwards. Then again, okay, Z52 smoked up in the middle of point B, and we have an early torpedo salvo. Are the torpedo beats going to fail Mad Mags? Nope, he manages to get off the track there. Capture of point A. Okay, that's got to be the Shimikaze. And with all the radar boats over to the center in the northeast, there's not a great deal that Jojo and Dave can possibly do on the matter to hunt him down. So they've got minimal spotting except for the Stalingrad, and Jojo's doing his best to just set it on fire, but he's bow on and backing up. If he turns out at this point, he risks taking armor piercing from the Stalingrad, although arguably he's taking a high explosive salvos from there anyway, so it looks like he's going to try the turn. He really needs to clear that turn, however, before the Yamato of Telgarup comes round this corner and gets a shot on him, because Yoshino has got a rather large citadel and not much in the way of armor even. Well, okay, it's a Yamato. Armor is kind of a footnote when you're talking about cruisers against a Yamato. Point C, largely uncontested by MUUH, so they're content just to leave Ayati here in a blocking position. And to be honest, it's less blocking position and more meat shield, while everybody else masks their positions and starts throwing rounds. They have got at least one ship here. I suspect it's the Minotaur, judging by the shell trails and the sheer rate of fire, that is throwing shells over at Kokushu, but, well, core is angled. So a lot of this 6-inch, if it is 6 inch, is going to bounce. There's the Shimakaze. Okay, so reappraise that. Z52 in the center. Shimakaze at the north side at sea, which implies that the Daring is on the southwest, unless they somehow cloaked a cruiser into point A. So right now, if I was in the position of Nautical by Nature's shot caller, I'd be very puzzled as to where that third destroyer has got to and exactly what they're doing. Gummian trying to turn around, but he's taking a risk there. If Teldarak manages to get himself reloaded in time, this is going to get messy. Rabari taking advantage to put a solid salvo of high explosive in. No fire on Gummy, but here come the Yamato shells. Amazingly, he rode the worst of that without any significant damage. Return fire, and my guess would be he's lined those up onto... actually trying to put Quarter Veteran down. Okay, he's taking a lot of damage, 10,000 health, less than 10 now, 9.5. Fires are burning, apparently out of control. Teldarak taking hits as well. I wonder if... there we go. Teldarak taking the shot onto Jojo with the Yamato's main guns. However, Jojo had the defensive turn going, so most of those shots are landing well short of not doing any significant damage. And we're seeing long-range talks coming off the Zao from Dave. Again, I suspect we're going to find that those are the 20-kilometer torpedoes rather than the 12s. So right now, Nautical by Nature are content to sit back and play, but wow! Some Daring torpedoes from nowhere, and look at the angle! The Daring's gone right round the flank. This is arguably why Nautical by Nature should have stuck a radar boat down south with this group. The Daring's got right round the flank, sudden torpedoes into the ocean or put it down, and suddenly Gummian has got no real option but to run like crazy. And following right onto that, NBN lose their Daring as well to fire from Lieblich's Minotaur. Lieblich, of course, dug in behind this island completely unobserved. No one's managed to lay line of fire or line of sight on him the whole time. And now, well, Hip Hobbit is... He's only really got the Montana to shoot at, although he's looking at the Des Moines, trying to see if he can get some salvos in there. But he's about to come under a lot of concentrated fire. He's got the Minotaur hammering his superstructure. He's got the Montana in front of him. He's got arguably Mr. Frags looking to see if he can get some shots over from the island in the center of Point B, although Frags has shifted his fire. It looks like they are content to focus down, although we might be seeing a break in the shot calling here. You'd expect to see fire focus onto either Bob or Gummian, not to see them splitting their fire between the two. However, it's worth noting, I suppose, that Teldarak has a Dirty Grey Island between himself and Bob, so there will be no shots going over there. Rabbery playing a very dangerous game there. Of course, there's no team damage in a training room, I think, so he doesn't have to worry too much about accidentally tapping Teldarak with a little bit of teamly affection. However, the cover has run out, so they're about to both sail out in front of, well, Bob. And we'll see if Bob's got his guns round. Breaking cover just briefly as they clear the corner. Bob's actually not looking that way. He's sailing away as fast as he can, trying to salvage the position. And unfortunately, as a consequence, he's sailing across the track of that rather wide spread of Daring torpedoes, but it's a Yamato. Yamato does not care about your armor angling. So, Bob is gone. And it's not looking good for Nautical by Nature all of a sudden. They've got one Des Moines holding the flanking. Guess who's next in the meat grinder as the Yamato and the Zao come up? They've got the Z52 spotting for them, of course, so that's going to get messy. To the south, the good news is, well, they've got point C. They've also managed to get themselves mostly defilated from the rather angry Minotaur that was behind the island south of point C, and the Shimakaze has just exploded, so even better. The bad news is that in order to make that work, Kunkal the 16th had to go rather aggressively forwards, and now he doesn't have a boat anymore because, well, battleship, 16-inch guns, not enough armour to stop those on a month of Sundays. So they're 4 ships down. They're 500 points behind. MUUH are 90 seconds from the win. And in fact, maybe that's going to listen to that because Core is trying to dive into point B to make the cap. And unfortunately, the process has gone broadside to an angry Montana. He's angling as best he can. But, well, when you've got the Minotaur abusing superstructure and the Montana eyeing up that transom stern, it gets very messy very quickly. Although it has to be said, he's done a decent job of getting away from the Minotaur's attentions, if not the Montana's. So, once again, we're seeing the dominoes fall. It's also worth noting what almost felt like a breakdown in command and control in those last couple of minutes. Although when most of your team is busy disintegrating, it's kind of hard to hold any kind of CNC, and yet there's the yell for support, but there's no one in a position to provide it. The Minotaur is once again looking for the headshot, but it's going to be... Actually, I don't know who it's going to be. Does anyone want to lay bets as to who's going to get the lucky shell in? It was the Yamato. What a surprise. Okay. So, solid win there for MUUH. I don't think there was any real contest once the shells started flying on that one.